And as always, we're going to be looking for accurate context, good risk management, and always exercising good patience.
Everybody who's traded has gone through periods of time where their strategy hasn't worked.
Where if not a hard stop, you should reevaluate the trades you're in based on time.
That's what we're here for, is to put ourselves in the best success. A trading routine does that, builds that habit, lets you know what to work on, what to reflect on, and what to improve on the next day.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's Market Reflection, Monday, January the 23rd. My name is John. Thanks for trusting me with your time today. I hope that you had a good and profitable trading day, stuck to your process, stuck to your strategies, took a step away if you started to get unhinged. Always important to remember to do that. Again, hopefully you had a good trading day. S&Ps, equities, stocks, they all found buyers today. We've moved and closed at a potentially very important area. This is going to be very interesting to see how this week plays out with the economic numbers tomorrow and Thursday, and see how this thing plays out. And we talked this morning in the S&Ps about short time frame being sort of in balance. That is now at risk of changing, and medium and longer time frame structure also at risk of changing. We talked this morning about price seeking facilitation for trade at higher levels. We talked about it being out of balance in the daytime frame. We didn't get to my dream levels, which would have pushed the price lower, but sure was good to see some upside momentum, especially for those of you in some longer term investments, 401ks and the like. That's going to look good there. You got the E-mini S&Ps closing unofficially up 48 points, 1.2%. The Dow futures up 257 points, 0.7% higher, and the NASDAQ leading the pack up 258 points at 2.2%. A lot of expectations. Last week we had some of our tech companies trim some employers, some employees. That's been viewed as a positive for them. We also have some tech companies' earnings coming out tomorrow after the close. We've got Microsoft. Early Johnson & Johnson tomorrow, Verizon, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, 3M. We got some of the defense contracting companies due out tomorrow. Those probably going to be positive, I'm thinking. We had the crude oil down 2 cents by the end of the day today. 81.62. I was watching earlier as the U.S. Energy Secretary says they're talking about now refilling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's hard to say. I'm going to try and say that about 5 times in a row here shortly. At $80 now, they've moved their bid up $10. So I think the new floor for crude oil is going to be around $80. Where did it settle today? Around 81.62. So we'll see if we even get the opportunity to see it down at $80. Tomorrow, PPI composite preliminary is due out. That's the major one for tomorrow morning. And we're going to take a look at what we had in these markets today. Of course, this reflection is something we should always do at the end of the trading day. We're not going to be kind of reflecting on our trades or any of my trades here, but we are going to reflect and take a look and see what the markets did today, what they're trying to tell us, because they are talking to us. It's just a matter of us being able to hear it or accept the information. Take a look at the crude oil here. We'll start with the daily. Still range bound. We did take a look up at last week's high, finding resistance there. Take a look at the 30. So that was during regular trading hours. The market did open out of balance. We did have the market kind of holding above value from Friday's session until too late in the day to try and take advantage of anything else. We had some overnight longs in this market that really tried to hang in there, and I think finally ended up capitulating at the end of the day. Value did move higher. $80 is now the floor that the government has probably put in. If they start buying crude at $80, it's going to be tough for price to get back down there for a while. So again, last week's high, a pretty decent opportunity for a short. What are we looking at tomorrow? Let's take a look at the profiles here and see if we can catch anything. Look at that weak high we put in today. Look at how weak that is in the daytime frame. It's also pretty weak against last Wednesday's high here. This is interesting, of course. Where did they settle again? 62, so no late spike. We did extend the range late in the session, but we did not close down there. So no perceived lack of acceptance down there, because we're going to see what happens here tomorrow. But we've got a weak high, small excess, weak high. It seems to me that this market is telling us that maybe the upside auction is not necessarily over yet. We've got some pretty decent excess at the low here on Wednesday. Not too great here, but we'll have to see. I'm really looking forward to showing you the S&Ps here. Here's the daily. So 76 is weekly kickoff high. There's some information up here in the past that seems to be kind of bringing my eye to it. So I'm thinking that's going to be an important inflection level if and when we do get there. So we were talking about structure. We're talking about what's going on. Well, the 200 session moving average on the daily chart, let me crush this down a little bit, is coming in below price now. Take a look at the continuation chart. Okay, this is the 200 session moving average. This is the 50 session moving average. We are at risk of bringing the 50 back over the 200. That was something that everybody was talking about when we were back here, when the 50 session moved below the death cross. Now are we going the other direction? On top of that, we have a trend line that goes from our all-time high. Of course, this is roughly put in. Contact. Market aberration. This was, again, a CPI number that went whacked. Contact, testing. Can't close above. We closed above it today. This is important. We're above the 200 session. The 50 may cross over the 200 session. And we've broken out above an important trend line and accepted above it. All right. Well, we also have last week's high, which I believe we did close just above it in settlement-wise. So what are we doing here? We've got more continuation to the upside. We've got a higher low. We've got higher highs. We've got another higher high. This is a potential technical change in market state. If the fundamentals don't support it, we'll have to deal with that. But just looking at the way things are, especially after today, volume was okay. I'm going to take a look at what it was like in New York. I'm expecting it not to be tremendous. 3,800,000. So, like I suspected, not tremendous in New York, but it never really is on the upside. 30-minute chart. Well, we talked this morning on the profile, on the prep, where we were looking at this level down here as kind of a dream level for us to look for longs. We didn't even get anywhere close to it. The market opened, looked below the opening range, and took out the high of the opening range, immediately taking us to repair of this high volume node right here. Look where the B period ended. It ended right at that level. We had some continuation. We had to test above last week's high. We looked, we came back. I believe we've closed above it now. Here's the TPO chart, regular trading hour session only. So excess on the high. It looks like excess on the daily as well. This doesn't bode well for longs. We've left some excess up here. We also had excess at the low. Excess. The downside auctions have been finishing. Upside auction now showing signs of being finished. What are we going to do tomorrow? Do you think that we added open interest on this day today? What was our final? So we had positive delta, 6,300 right now is where it is. 6,300 positive. No real delta divergence here. There may be something underneath. I want to see if we added a bunch of open interest tomorrow morning. Take a look at the NASDAQ now. NASDAQ also. Okay, one major difference. Let me get this. This is the daily. I don't think these moving averages are in the right spots here. Okay. So last week's high, a breakout above. If this is right, it's a little bit unusual that the 200 session is where it is. Of course, the NASDAQ has been buried deeper than the S&Ps. What's it look like on the continuation chart? Yeah, that is right then, because where did we trade to today? 200 session moving average. But this trend line, which is the same trend line as the S&Ps, is right off the all-time high, contact, a close above. 200 session and the 50 aren't really ready to cross over yet here, but it's very interesting that we are going to be testing the 200 session moving average tomorrow. 30-minute. So here's last week's high. We got much deeper through last week's high, almost a weekly kickoff high in the NASDAQ. Been presenting very strong compared to the others. It's got a real pep in its step lately, doesn't it? Here's the gold. And that is, by the way, an industry term. The market's got a lot of pep in its step. So we had a pretty deep dive to the downside here in gold this morning. We have recovered that. Some of it after the close. The gold is technically closing regular trading hours at 12:30, but we've had some pretty good moves afterwards on Friday, not on Thursday, not on Friday, but again today. The market continuing to push higher after the close. This last week's high is going to be an interesting spot. Got to watch the dollar again too, though. Got to watch the dollar. The euro looked pretty much like this morning. We had a test of weekly kickoff high. That remains the high for the session. Here's the 30. There's our overnight test. Value moving higher, but no real momentum here. So we'll look for opportunities up near weekly kickoff high if given the opportunity. The 10-year yields continue to push a little bit higher, so the 10-year pushes a little bit lower. We're really kind of range bound here. Looking at last week's high and low as the bases, the extremes of the range for now. Okay, so open, in range, reject value, value moves lower, B-shaped profile. How could we have long liquidation here? Although that's what it looks like, and we should be confirmed by lower open interest tomorrow. And for our beloved natural gas, last week's weekly kickoff low remains. It did not get closed below. We've got to move to the upside, but not before a deep dive. I don't know how anybody would have traded this. Let me get the 30 up here. So we open with a gap. We get back into value, back into range, back into value. We can't close the value area special situation play, basically almost a settlement before buyers come in and move this market higher. We did not test this weekly, this naked point of control here that still remains in that gap. We didn't even close that gap. So you got to stop doing that. Well, I guess we'll be caught up here at some point, but I don't want to bother you guys anymore today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. And we will chat then. Yeah, I did. I messed up the streaming here. So get a good night's sleep. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Say a prayer for peace, and I will see you in the morning. Again, my apologies for the screw up again. Sorry about that. Have a good night.